Hey guys, welcome back to UModeler. In this video, we're going to take a look at rigging. Now there's going to be times in your game, of course, especially if you're using 3D, you might want to rig your characters. Now, of course, you can export your characters to another program or, rig it somewhere else. But what if you actually don't want to leave Unity? Well, that's where UModeler's rigging system come into play. So it makes it really easy actually to rig. I'm going to show you guys how quickly you can actually get up and running. So we have a character here, and this is a basic character. You can either use an FBX or you can use a GLB file. Just bring your character into the scene. All right, but one of the main requirements will be to convert that character into a UModelerX object. So there's two ways you can do that. You can right click on your game object here, and you can go down to UModelerX and select one or two of these options, or you can actually use the Mesh Apps tool. You select your game object and you can simply go ahead and click on this icon here, and it allows you to UModelize this object immediately. So I'll go ahead and select that. And so now our game object is a UModelerX game object, and now we actually can just go ahead and start rigging it really quickly. Now there's lots of tools inside of the rigging, but there's some really quick and easy, effective ways to be able to do it pretty quickly. All right, so the first thing is we have our game object here and he's now selected. So now what we want to do is head over to this green icon. And then once we select this icon, this is going to take us into the rigging mode. And now I wanted to show you this, but there's actually one thing that we might want to do before we actually go to this mode. So let me go ahead and click back into modeling mode and back on our actual object directly inside of the hierarchy. I want to right click and create an empty an empty game object. And what we're going to do is go ahead and rename this to root. All right. And so now that we have this root, our game object's pivot point is at the bottom, and this root here is going to be here at the bottom of the game object as well. So now I'm going to select the actor and I'm going to head back over to that green icon. And in here you see rigging mode. You're going to have these two options here. You're going to have the animator root, and they're going to have the root bone here. So what we're going to do is simply drag this root that we just created in here, and we're going to drag this here. Perfect. It's the easiest way actually to get started. All right. And so the only thing you need to do now is hit start rigging. And your object in most cases is just going to turn blue, and these are just the different points on the mesh here, these vertices. And if we select the root, it's just going to turn them red. And so this is basically just the mesh itself. All right, now this is going to be the bone tree. Inside of the bone tree, this is where all of your different bones are going to be listed out once you actually create the bones. All right, now there's two different areas. You have the weight group, and then you have the bone group. In the weight group, you have the weight here, and you can apply different weights. You have the weight brush, you have the transform, the mirror, and the auto weight, right? And you also have this envelope option as well. But we're mainly just going to use the auto weight and the weight brush. All right, and then at the bottom, you have reset poses, rebind, build bones, edit bones, and then human avatar. So in this case, we're simply going to go ahead and build some bones. So with this root selected, I'm going to go ahead and click on build bones. All right. And so once I click build bones, you're going to have some tool properties. Inside the tool properties, you're going to have the option to select the bone as the top level. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and select that bone as the top level. And in terms of editing, these are just some things you just generally want, like symmetry, especially if your model has symmetry. And then you have some other objects here. We're going to leave these pretty much alone. These are mainly for visual displaying different things. We'll just leave this as default. But the main thing we want to take a look at is the structure. So in this case, you have a limb, a human, or quadruped. So we're going to, of course, in this case, leave it on human, and then we're going to hit start building. Once you click start building, you're going to have a set of points here, and these points, all you have to do is move them into the right position that they need to be in. So what we're going to do is go ahead and move this up here like this, and this is going to be kind of like the torso area here. We're going to move this right leg over a little bit, and if you notice, it's symmetry, so everything kind of moves with it. And then I'm going to move this right leg over. This is kind of like the knee, and then I'm going to take this right foot, bring this down a bit, just like so that looks pretty good. And also I'll just move this over a little bit more there. Now, in terms of the spline, we're going to go ahead and move that up a little bit here, so that looks pretty good, maybe around the belt area. And then I'll take this upper arm here and kind of move this over here. This is the right shoulder, so I'll move this into this area here, maybe not here, but more like here is where the shoulder sits. And then we're going to take this arm, pull it back about here. We're going to take this right lower arm and put it here, and then we're going to take this hand and put it at the wrist area, so it's going to be a kind of probably about right here is where that's going to start. So there you go. So that looks pretty good to me. And then of course it's mirrored, so it should reflect on the other side pretty well. And you can adjust it as you need, as you see fit, of course. And so I think this is about like the elbow here, and this is kind of like the lower arm, and this is going to be the wrist. So there you go. All right, and then you have the neck, of course. You can move the neck up. I usually put that kind of somewhere under the neck, under the chin, and you can move the head, you know, something like this, like maybe right at the forehead. But other than that, that looks pretty good. Now you can do it from you can look from this angle as well, but I think this is pretty good for our needs here. So this is all about being quick and being able to get something rigged pretty fast. All right, so once you move those points into place, all you need to do is click on Make Bones. All right, and so now that we have Make Bones, you can see that all the bones that we had listed there are ready to go, and that they are set. Pretty nice. All right, now if there's any additional bones needed, what's great is that you can still edit. So we can go into edit mode, and inside of the edit mode, you have a few tool properties. You can show the handler there, so you can turn this off or on if you don't want to see it. You can turn the bones off if you want. You can show the names of the bones if you want those off, that sort of thing. Now, the main thing we want to do here is look at the bone name, and then you have the ability to add, parent, remove, rename, delete, connect, or remove all children. Right? So what we're going to do here is we can select, say this character has like a, I don't know, maybe a tail. So I can select this area here. And what I can do is, what I'm going to do here is go ahead and move this into position. And I'm going to add a bone to this area here. So I'm going to hit add. And once I hit add, we can actually see a new piece here show up. And what we're going to do is now hit add again, and we can continue to add more bones to this and position this as needed. Now, this is up to you, of course, if you need a tail on your character, and maybe it's not a character with a tail. Maybe you're making fingers for this guy, or maybe you want to have a long dress, and so maybe you're creating some additional things. But whatever that may be, you can use this to actually create additional bone structures for your object. So what we can also do is rename that bone if we want. So if we want to rename it, so if I say bone 2, you know, we don't want bone 2, we can just call it test bone, and we can actually hit rename there. Or we want to delete that bone, we can delete that bone. It's completely up to you. And so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go ahead and remove these bones as see fit, so we do not need these here for this demonstration. All right, so now that we have all of our bones in the positions that we actually need, the next main thing to get this going quicker is to go ahead and bind our bones to the actual mesh so that our character's arms can actually move when the bones move. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that I go ahead and select this root here. And what I'm going to do is select auto weight. Now, once I select auto weight, you're going to see some different tool properties. You're going to see the blend width, normal bias, and some other options. Now, I'm going to leave the rest of this alone, and the only thing I'm going to adjust is the blend width. So I'm going to change this to 0.075, and then I'm going to hit apply auto weight. And once I do that, you're going to see your object change a little bit. Now, when you select holding down the shift key on a certain bone, now you get to see what bone affects or how a bone affects the mesh in different ways. So the red color is going to be that bone affects it 100%. And then the black color of the mesh itself here means it has no effect. So basically this blue has a little effect, this light blue has a little more effect, and so on and so forth, right? So if I go ahead and select this arm here, now what this is really telling me is that when I rotate this arm, this all should move just like that. And the reason this is moving like this is because this arm has all these different bones attached to it, and so it's going to move all of this mesh together, right? So what we're going to do is just rotate that, and we can get a sense as to how well that auto weight tool did. And it actually did a really, really good job, and that's really good, right? And so what we can do is check the other side. It should be almost identical, and that looks really good. And we can continue to check things like the neck, and we can see how that affects it. I think that's pretty good as well. We can do an up and down. We can do this torso area where we can move the spine, and we can kind of see how that works. That is all looking great, and that's just from using the auto tool. So now what we can do is select this leg, and we can see how that's going to work. So if I was to move this leg like so, you can see it's doing pretty good. It doesn't seem to affect any of the meshes on the other side of the leg, so that's good. But you do notice that there is a little bit of the pants here, or the boot, that needs to kind of connect to this whole area here. So what that means is when I move this arm here, this bone is probably, we need to add something. And as you can see, it's probably here. So as I said before, that red area, this area needs to be more red because we want this bone to affect this area at a higher weight. Okay, so to do that, we're going to go ahead and switch over to the weight brush. And so once you select the weight brush is going to give you some tools, and the main tool that I use is going to be the weight brush type. And you can change the weight itself from a 0 to a 1, and you can mess with some of these other things, but I typically don't use those. I usually use add or subtract in most cases. All right, so in this case, what do we need to do? We need to add more to this bone. So when we click here, we're adding this mesh to that bone. And so we're just selecting in these areas. And as you can see, we have cleaned up that pant leg there, and it is now more perfect for us. Now, if you notice in this area of the pant, it is going, but it's not this bone that's affecting that. It's actually this bone up here. And so what we want to do is add more weighting in this area. So we can kind of click and drag, and you want to keep in mind that when you're clicking, it's really going to be on these vertices sections here, these cross sections of the actual face. So here, if I click here, if I click here, you're going to see it kind of cleans that up. And so we can go there. Now, if we didn't want to add and we wanted to remove, you would just simply go to subtract, and then you click there. Now, the reason it's like a strong blue, like a very hard blue, is because of the weight of this. So if we do something like a 0.11 and we click, it's going to be more faded. And so we have to keep clicking more, but we don't want to do that. We want to go all the way here to 1, and we want to go ahead and clean that up completely. All right, and so now we want, when this leg is pulled, we want all this pants to be affected by this whole bone here, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and paint this in. We don't want any of that yellow or blue kind of affecting that. And we can just kind of go in and clean that up. And it looks like it's working out pretty good. great. And so now that whole leg is looking much better, looking pretty great. All right, and I like that. So what we can do now is move this leg. Now, in most cases, you would think, well, you can just kind of move the leg and kind of angle it back within that point, and that could work. But a more accurate way to do it actually would be to go down into the bone group and click on Reset Poses. So when we click on Reset Poses, it's going to reset it exactly back to what it needs to be. Perfect. All right. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is take a look at weight mirroring. So this is another quick way to go ahead and mirror what you did on one side to apply to the other side. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and select, say, this center bone here. And what we want to do is simply mirror from this side to this side, since we kind of worked over here. Right? So the goal now is to go ahead and click. We're going to go ahead and click on weight mirror here. Now there's going to be some few options here, but in your scene, you'll notice that there's this red bar here separating the one side from the other. Okay. And so you'll notice there's also this arrow here, this red arrow. So if we're in like one of these modes here, you'll notice that there's a red arrow there. Now, if we hit flip, you can flip it. You can go on a different axis if you need to. You can do it that way, but what we're going to do is doing the x-axis because we want everything from the left side to this side, and that will be good. All right, and you can change the distance too if you need to move it a little bit, but in our case, 0 is properly set. All right, so all we have to do now is select this, hit this button mirror, and it will mirror over the vertices and the weights and everything right over to the side. Now, of course, if your mesh has different topology on one side than the other, then things will be a little different. But for the most part, that is how you would use the mirror tool within the weight group. It's very handy and it really helps speed up your process. All right, so now that we have our character all set and ready to go, all we really would need to do is export our character as an FBX file so that you can use it just like any other character in your game and prepare it to be used in your project. So to do that, all we would need to do is go ahead and head over to the model section. I'm just going to go ahead and click this here. And so we have our character here. I'm going to go over to where it says actor and just select the object just like so. I'm going to right click, or actually not right click. I'm going to go to game object, export to FBX, and then I'm going to save it as a different name. I'm just going to call it rigged. And then I'm going to save it into the assets folder. Of course, you can change where you save it, wherever you like. And then I'm just going to click on export. All right, so it looks like, if to see at the bottom here, it's going to show that the character has been set and assigned there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it. And now you can see inside of the assets folder, we have the character rig version here. So if I go ahead and close this, you'll see that option here. So character rigged, and there it is, just like so. And so what we have here is this guy, and if you look up, you have the same options you would otherwise with any other object or FBX that you would have brought into the game. So you have the model, you can rig the animations, and you set your materials here if you need to. Great. And so we can go ahead and now change this model here from generic to humanoid. And what we want to do is go ahead and hit apply. And now that we've done that, we've changed it to a humanoid. We can go ahead and hit configure. And now we have our model is already in set there. And so we can go to muscles and settings there. And you can see that the object is completely ready to go. And we can test some of his movement by just kind of moving these things around and seeing how it works. Well, I hope this was useful for you and helpful for you to be able to rig your characters directly inside of Unity using UModeler X. I think it's a really great solution to be able to do this so easily right inside the engine. It just makes it really easy for you to set it up and go. And we could have went even faster, but I just wanted to kind of walk through some of the different tools, and not all of them because we would be here for a very long time going through all the details. But these were all the main things that you would need just to get you up and running. All right, well, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let us know if you enjoyed this and leave a comment if you're using this in your projects. Other than that, we'll see you in the next one.